Good morning, everyone. This is a busy young lady. She's a queen, and I've been trying to get to her. And believe me, this interview is worth the wait. I am proud of her. I've never met her until today. However, her story is really interesting and very inspirational and motivational. So, with that being said, I would like to introduce Brittany Floyd. Yay, Brittany, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany Floyd. Like she said, I'm really happy to be here. I my story is a big, long one, so I hope that we can make enough time for it. But essentially, I was able to pivot from being a frontline worker as a flight attendant to being in a commercial strategy role. That's in an MBA leadership program for my company, which is actually the same program that our former CEO went through. So, a really huge deal. I got an MBA during the pandemic and was able to really change things around. And so, yeah, I guess I will start from the beginning. I don't, it's a really complicated story. So let's get started. So essentially, I took a leave from undergrad. So I studied abroad my junior year of undergrad, and I got back home after a year of living in England, and I felt like my life had changed, but I just didn't know where it was going. I felt like this kind of like void or this like longing for some other life, but I wasn't sure what that looked like. And so I went back to Michigan, in this tiny little what I call podunk town called Ypsilanti. I love it. I'm saying this with love, but it's this tiny little town where I didn't have a car. I just came back from living in Europe. I had this big life where I went to maybe 9 countries and I had friends from all over the world. And so I go back to this podunk town in Michigan, and I can just not find happiness there. I'm like failing out of classes, just a terrible, terrible experience. I'm learning now that what is called is re-entry shock. A lot of people have it. It's something that people in the military and other folks have, but I just didn't know to expect this, and I'm 20, so I don't know how to navigate this properly. I did try some therapy, but I was just like, I need to get out of here. So, in Europe, a big thing is that a lot of people take their time when they build their career and their educational journey, and they'll take a gap year or they'll wait until they're 25 to go to uni or to university, so that they can really know what they want to do. And so I think that influenced by all these folks who do what they wanted to do, I came back to the States and I decided I'm taking a sabbatical. I'm taking a what do you call it? Like a gap year, however many years I need, I'm taking that. And so I ended up just doing the only thing that made me happy, which was travel at the time. And so I became a flight attendant, and I ended up moving to Philadelphia, and I was there for 8 years, very affectionately. But in this period of time, the first couple of years, I just traveled. I mean, I look at the map, whatever I could put my finger on that I hadn't been and that didn't need a visa, I was on the way, or I could do a visa upon arrival. And so it was very selfish part of my journey. I was just trying to figure out, who am I? What do I want? I was just throwing myself into the only thing that made sense for me, which was travel. But some interesting things happened while this was going on. So essentially, maybe like a year or two in of me being a flight attendant, I was just posting on social media just so that my friends and family could see what I was doing.
Slow down a little, slow down a little.
Oh, sure.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm a fast talker.
yes, I can see, but go ahead. I love that. It's very interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah. So essentially, I within a couple of years of me moving to Philadelphia to be a flight attendant, some really interesting things started to kind of take shape. So I just posted on my social media just for friends and family, just because they would always ask me, what's up? What are you doing? And it's so hard to text and call every single person. So social media became kind of my medium.
Mhm.
And then also too, I started a blog because I would get some of the same questions from the same people. It'd be like, what do I do in Paris, or what do I do in London? And so I realized that I was answering a lot of the same questions. And so I made a blog,
Mhm.
just so that people I could reference. I would send them the link and say, hey, this is the blog I made. And then you come to me when you have questions after, like after you read the blog, because I'm just answering the same questions over and over again. And it wasn't because I wanted to be like a blogger in any like real sense. It was just that it was the most efficient, it seemed to me.
Mm-hmm.
So through this journey, people started reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, I really like your blog, but I just like the way you travel and I want to come with you." And so that's when my journey as a group travel
Mm-hmm.
operator started. And so it started small and it wasn't a business first, but essentially I started taking small groups of people all over the world. So basically to destinations that they may not have gone on their own, places like South Africa, Indonesia, Colombia, etc. And so I started taking groups of young professionals. And so I had this like budding entrepreneurial kind of business popping up. And I also felt like it was time to go back to school. So I ended up just staying a flight attendant. I went back to school in Michigan and finished my bachelor's in international affairs. And then I continued to run my business as a group tour operator. And I also dabbled in kind of like a travel agent for a while, but group tours were really my niche and what really drove me. And so I continued to do that. And then it was actually an interesting moment, which reminded me a little bit of the pandemic, where when I graduated with my bachelor's, I was trying to decide, do I stay a flight attendant or do I get a different job? And I kept trying, and I just was not having any traction. I was a non-traditional student. I had graduated at 27. And so unlike Europe, which they are very understanding of non-traditional paths, I feel like here in the States is all about, you go your 4-year degree, you do this, you do that. And so it was just like very challenging for me to get any kind of roles in my international development or any of those kind of spaces. And so I really had to think about what am I going to do? Because I'm not getting a job in my industry or any job because I don't have the experience they're looking for, because I had all my experience prior had been in customer service. It had been in travel, tourism, hospitality. And so it was kind of skill sets that felt very useless at the time.
Okay.
Um, so I'm just like, what am I gonna do? And so nonetheless, I decided to lean into entrepreneurship. And so through that journey, I actually learned so much about my abilities to use digital marketing, to build brands, my experience and kind of building out a really unique customer journey or customer experience. And so I started doing these things, and I'm taking, like I said, groups all over the world. I'm opening, different businesses as an entrepreneur and flying, and life is good. And then the pandemic comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my entire background and my entire life is in travel. So I'm a flight attendant. So that's where my bread and butter comes. That's where my paycheck comes from. And then my small business is in travel and group travel. Actually, when the Northeast kind of locked down in early March,
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a trip that I was going to take a group to Ghana 2 weeks later that I had to cancel. And so, everything was just up in the air about what was going to happen with my life. And I remember I'm sitting on the jump seat, and there was whispers that we were going to lock down, all over the internet, and everyone was talking about it and the news, and you're just, it's imminent. And so I'm sitting there, and we land. I think we went to the Caribbean or something. I don't know. I went somewhere that we never stopped there. And so essentially, we land. I open my phone, and we have the notice that essentially that Philadelphia, where I was living at the time, was going to lock down, I think on like March 19th or something like that. And I am bawling, just like absolutely bawling. And I'm so grateful because I was in this seat where the customers couldn't see me, but I just knew that my whole life had changed. And I remember my coworker who was sitting up there with me in first class, and she was just like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be a couple weeks. I'm like, no, my whole life has changed. My whole life has changed. And so I cry, I go home. I really think about it. I sit on my couch for like a week, and I watch everything on Netflix, and I think, okay, it is time to pivot. like the only option you have right now is to pivot, because it's a likelihood that you'll get furloughed from your flight attendant job. You're gonna, you have to do all these things with your small business. Like there's no way that you're going to be able to survive or maintain if you don't pivot right now, and hopefully away from travel. So nonetheless, after 1 week of sitting on my couch, I decided to kind of start doing a thought exercise where I laid out all the possibilities for me, like all of my interests, all of the type of jobs that I could do that were not travel or outside of my immediate role. And I talked with a lot of friends. I was on calls with people like every single day, trying to figure out what's next. So after convincing my friends, convinced me that essentially I should get an MBA. And I never really saw myself as a MBA candidate. I had some interest, but I never thought that it would be real. And so I ended up having some conversations. Some friends of mine who were finishing up their MBA during 2020, and they had to kind of encourage me. They were like, girl, you started multiple businesses, you have a degree in international affairs, you have industry knowledge. They're hyping me up and letting me know that that it is possible for me. And so I ended up on this MBA journey. And so 1 week later, I was already submitting applications to MBA programs, and a lot of the MBA programs had actually started extending their deadlines or extending the testing requirements and things like that. And so nonetheless, I put in my application on April 1st of 2020. I put in a leave from my job because they were offering voluntary furloughs from my flight attendant job. And so I put the leave in, and I just hope for the best. I didn't even know if I had gotten into a program yet before my leave got approved, but I just knew that it was time. And then luckily, on May 6th of 2020, I got a call from one of the schools that I applied to, and they let me know that not only did I get in, but I got a fellowship to go there, which is unheard of for the MBA world in the third round, which was really late. It was just that I'm guessing people probably dropped out or decided to defer or things like that, but it worked to my benefit. So I ended up starting an MBA like 6 weeks later. Like it was really fast. And so I was in school, I was recruiting. And so what I had decided was essentially that I wanted to pivot into what they call brand management or into marketing, because I felt like for me to build my businesses, most of it was done on digital marketing. So social media, email, etc. And so I think that, I was selling out my trips. So clearly I'm pretty good at this, and also building brands. And so I thought that I would go into brand management. And so I ended up getting like one of the top internships, because in the MBA process, you essentially have to do an internship in the summer. And then either you go to that company when you graduate or you do something different. But I ended up going and getting one of the #1 internships in marketing, coming out and being such a non-traditional student and coming into this process during the pandemic was crazy, but I ended up being one of the first ones to secure my offer. And so I went and I worked at a big consumer good company that we all know. And I did innovation for them, and I made new drinks. And so I'm building these new skill sets, I'm really pushing myself. I'm really trying to do something new. But then when it was time to recruit for full-time opportunities, so that's the fall before you graduate, um, I was at a conference, and my company that I was a flight attendant for was there. And so just casually, I went over and I said to them, like, hey, I'm a flight attendant with y'all. I took a voluntary furlough during the pandemic and did an MBA, and this is where I've been working. This is what I've been doing. And they were just like, can you interview tomorrow? And I was like, oh, okay. And this whole like thought process came where I didn't realize that I was so scared of the industry because of what happened. And I felt like I had no options. But as an MBA, it's a completely different story going over and working in my industry that I have 15 years of experience in, 8 of which are on the front line. And they started to really value what that experience was. And I realized that I had like a really like strong career path, but on the corporate side of my job. And so I ended up getting accepted into what they call like an MBA leadership program,
Yes.
which I am the first ever frontline employee to ever get into that program. It's one that builds, senior leaders that are across the industry in aviation. And aviation management is actually an industry that is has very limited diversity. It's usually like old white dudes that run aviation. And so there's not a lot of women, and there's not a lot of women of color in leadership in aviation management. So it is a huge honor for me to be able to get into this program. And like I said, when we first started, it's the program where one of our former CEOs who just retired, Doug Parker, actually went through the same program. And so even though I'm not a VP yet or anything like that, I'm just a marketing analyst in commercial strategy. I am in an MBA leadership program that is building me into, or helping me grow into, the kind of aviation management leader of the future. And I think that it has been this incredible journey that has also everything that I've ever done, all the work that I have as an entrepreneur and building brands and doing marketing and traveling all over the world and having that global context and having my degree in international affairs, and all of the things that happened up until this point all make sense. Even my gap years, it was like
Yeah.
4, even those gap years where I just became a flight attendant, I would never have been introduced to aviation and aviation in general, without it. And so, all these pieces of the puzzle of my life started to make sense because I've like lived this big global life, and now I work for this big global company, the largest airline in the world, and I build strategies for them. And yes, I am not yet up in the ranks, but I feel like I have done damn good in terms of, what the cards that I had in front of me and the decisions that I needed to make during these pivotal moments of me deciding to be an entrepreneur instead of taking a job I didn't like, me then pivoting again during the pandemic and going and getting my MBA, and deciding to take a master's degree so I could upskill and really figure out what was next with my life. And, then landing back at the airline, even though I thought I was going to consumer goods, but it being the best thing that could have happened to me. And it really set me up for a really strong career. And I think that it was just, yeah, I'm just so glad.
It was your fate. So I want to ask a question. Wonderful story, very inspirational. Listen to your journey and your thought process. One question I want to ask you. You mentioned that you weren't a traditional student, but let's be clear, there is a lot of people going back to school older than you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you have to realize. Traditional, maybe the market wasn't ready for you at the time. But when you went back, your town wasn't ready for you. But going back to school at an older age seemed to be the norm. And I like the fact that you never gave up. You never gave up at all. Now, when you went back home, you were with your parents?
You mean when I was
When you first, we said you did a year overseas in college.
Oh, yeah. I
Uh,
was actually living on campus, and then I moved back, and I was back on campus again. And then, yes, I did end up moving home.
yes.
It just made sense in terms of financial stuff. And I was just like, I gotta make a plan. What's next? And that's when I became a flight attendant.
Okay. And at that point, did your parents say anything to you as far as your journey, your change of heart?
Yeah, so it's funny because I had a completely different reaction. It was actually my mom who was the most active. But I told my friends, "Hey guys, I'm actually gonna take a pause from school." And they were like, "You're dropping out?" And they're all like freaking out about it. And they're like, "You have a year and a half left, just graduate." And I'm like, if I stay one more minute, I'm gonna fail every single class. I'm never gonna be able to go to get a master's degree. I had no clue that I'd actually get a master's. I just was talking. But I'm like, I'll never get a master's degree. I'll mess it all up. Like, I have to go. I told my mom, and she says, "Honey, I know you'll go back when you're ready."
Good. So you
And
had a
that's all
good
she
support
said
system. You had a good support
immediately.
system. So that was
Immediately.
wonderful. So how did you find the flight attendant? You just went into the newspaper and just said, okay,
No,
how did you find it?
So randomly in this podunk town that I told you about called Ypsilanti,
Mhm.
I was in there getting a gel manicure on like a Wednesday, and no one else was there but me and this flight attendant who worked for United.
Mhm.
And so she's a young Black girl from Michigan, and so she's in there getting her manicure, and I am just quiet. I'm not really talking, but she's talking to her nail tech. And she was telling them how she just got back from Istanbul in
Mhm.
Turkey. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because I had went to Istanbul the year before with my friends. And so I'm thinking, who in this podunk town has been to Istanbul? And this young Black girl. So I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, I'm sorry for being nosy and listening to your conversation, but I just overheard you say that you just got back from Istanbul. And I went last year and it was amazing. What were you doing there? And she's like, oh, I'm a flight attendant for United. And I was like, I never thought of that. I really had never thought of that before. At that point, I had been to 18 countries already, but it just never crossed my mind
Mhm.
that the flight attendant profession or anything in aviation really. And so she opened up that pathway. I didn't end up working for United,
Mhm.
but it put me on a journey of about a year and a half of me applying to different airlines and trying to find the right fit. And then I ended up getting hired. And then that started that whole journey. But yeah, I started in a nail shop.
Well, one question, what was the process of applying and why did it take a year for you to land a position in the airline
Yeah,
industry?
that's because when I applied for United, I got a referral from this girl and I ended up going to the interviews and I flew down to Houston and I did the whole interview thing, but I had not done my research. Up until this point in my life, I just go into a job, I got it. People like me. I tell them my little stories and then they hire me. But the flight attendant profession is actually really competitive. At the company that I work at now, only 1% of the applicants actually get a job. So
Right.
it's a very competitive thing. And so it took me that long because one, I had to pick up my little pride after I didn't get the job at United. And then once I was able to pick myself back up, I was like, no, let's try this again. And so I started applying to all the airlines all over again. And then I started doing research. I found videos online of flight attendants giving tips on how to do the interview, what to say, tips about the lifestyle. I read a book that was about a flight attendant life. I just started doing my research and I started learning about different interviewing styles like the STAR method. And so, yeah, I went back and I was prepared the second time. That's what
So,
happened.
okay, so you did a lot of reading. So give us a little cue in that world of what the interview, so you said only 1%. That's a very small percent, and they have a lot of airlines. So
Yes.
what make their interview so unique that you have to train for it, pretty much. So give a little clue on that.
Yeah, it's essentially a group interview. And so you go down, it's kind of like a casting call, it feels like. Go down for this whole 1 day interview. They fly you in and fly you out the same day. And so the interview is like 5 to 8 hours. And so you're in a room
Mm.
and you're doing group activities, you are doing your own individual interviews. You really have to stand out and they have to see that you not only know what you're getting into and what you're signing up for, but also that you have the customer experience or the customer service experience to really be successful and to really live in such a high paced, high change environment, because it's a job where things are constantly changing. You are miles and miles away from friends, family, the US. You got to be equipped for that kind of lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so they're just trying to see if you're a fit. And so it's through a lot of activities like group ones and then individual interviews with different people and things like that throughout the day. And so it's this big long day-long interview. And so
So
that's why you got to prepare.
wow, is there and you but you don't need any experience? Do you need to come in with, because I'm doing this for people who might want to go in that industry.
Mhm.
Do you need to have prior travel experience? Do you need to have a passport prior to waking up and saying, I want to be an airline stewardess?
No, you should be applying for, because they'll ask you, I think, in the application, like, are you okay with applying for your passport, because you're gonna need it. It's an essential item.
Mhm.
Um, But no, you don't necessarily have to have traveled. You could just have the desire to travel. I think that the key point is really just the flexibility,
Hmm.
of the kind of role, like being open to being flexible, to living in different cities, traveling all over the place,
Hmm.
as well as having customer service experience, and knowing how to deal with customers and how to navigate those things and how to work with your teammates. And it's a really independent job where you don't have your manager with you on the plane. And so you have to be very independent.
Hmm.
And so I think that they're looking for people who are leaders, people who are willing to work in ambiguous situations and make the best out of what they can do, and who have, flexibility and have customer service experience. So you don't have to have been like me coming in. I had already been to 18 countries, but it
Yeah.
was like, for me, it just made sense. I'm like, I fly too much. All I do is work at my hotel job and make enough money to go to the next trip. I might as well get paid to do it.
And so another question I want to ask you. So once you got in, how long is the training process at the Airline Stewardess?
Yeah, so for every airline, it could be anywhere between, 4 to 8 weeks, depending on where you go. And some of the international carriers is a bit longer, but
Mhm.
for the domestic carriers, typically around like 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, one more question. 'Cause this a lot of people are gonna really gravitate to this interview. So when you are a airline stewardess and you land into a particular area, how does that work? What's your furlough time when you're in that particular space? How much time do you get to navigate and see the place? Or, how does that work? Because you can be going back and forth in the plane, and do you get time to really see
Mhm.
the town?
It's a balance, really. Sometimes you have a long layover, and you are exploring and you're having a good time and you're in Rome or in Paris or along Los Angeles. But sometimes it's short. Sometimes you just have enough time to get to the hotel, shower, sleep, wake up, do it again. And sometimes you leave out one day and come back the same day
Oh,
and do like what they call island turns. So you'll go and you'll fly to Puerto Rico or somewhere like that, and then you'll end up in your bed at night. So it varies. It's literally just so different than what people think. You can sometimes you'll have a good time, you have layovers, it's fun, you hang out with your crew. Sometimes it is just a quick go to sleep, shower, and then sometimes it is, you don't even sleep over anywhere. You just come home that same day.
so is it a regular 40-hour type of job or 80 hours? What is the hours? Because you
Yeah, so
traveling.
yeah. So it's actually closer to like a nurse's job or something like that, where you work like 3 to 4 days a week and you
Hmm.
work like 10 to 12 hour shifts, kind
Hmm.
of. And so it's basically set up that way. So you work like a sequence or trip um once a week. So usually I would work say the weekends. And so I'd work Friday through Sunday. And
Hmm.
so I'd be gone. And then during the week, I'd just be where I was based at, which is Philadelphia at the time. And so I'd just be in Philadelphia during the week. And then on the weekends, I would fly. And so it just depends. And sometimes people fly during the week. And then they have the weekends off, but it just is based on your seniority. So it's like a job that's really seniority heavy.
Oh,
So
it's
if you
mission
have more
based.
seniority, you get your weekends off, you get holidays. But if you're junior, then you work the weekends, you work the holidays, you work the last minute trips. They call you and they say, "Oh, you're going to the airport in 2 hours." You're like, "Okay."
Wow. So,
Okay.
oh wow. So you have to be flexible when you're off to realize that you can't go too far, knowing that you might be called.
Yeah, well, they let you know when you're gonna be on call and when you're not. So it's just not like you have to like stop your life or anything like that. It's just that there's specific days where like say Tuesday through Thursday, I know I'm on call. So you just have to be within 2 hours of the airport and have your stuff ready, essentially.
Wow. Another question. Is there a high turnover in that industry?
I think yes and no, because it's like once, like the first year is probably the hardest year.
Hmm.
And so I think that a lot of people get weeded out in the first couple years because it's like it's tough on you. You're missing your family, you're working odd hours, you could be in Indianapolis or you could be in Paris. You never know what's gonna happen. Um, And so a lot of people get weeded out, but then once they weed out, then
Mhm.
people stay for a long time. I'm talking like 40 years. There's some people that I worked with in Philadelphia that yeah, they have been at the airline for 40 years. They started when it was Pan Am or with, TWA or, some of those old school airlines. And so they stay a long time. And even in my Philadelphia base, the average seniority I think was around 20 years. So it's
Wow.
a career. It's not just like some frivolous job. It's a career that people take very seriously. And there's a union, and there's like fair wages. Typically, I mean that's debatable, but I think that for a customer service job, it's probably the best you can be paid.
Mhm. Okay, so another question I want to ask about that. Is there an age limit in people starting this career as a flight attendant? Is there,
Um,
back in the days used to be a size and just a lot of little cosmetic exterior thing that was going on. Does that still exist? And it doesn't have to be about your particular airline, but just all the different ones that you applied for and stuff.
Yeah, no, they're open. They have been doing a lot of diverse hiring in terms of like, what people think is a typical flight attendant. I think that once the civil rights movement happened, and the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 60s, it not only supported like underrepresented groups, but also women and not being able to discriminate at jobs. And so they had to drop those weight limits, those age limits, those restrictions on like flight attendants couldn't be married or
Oh,
have kids.
oh,
And so they dropped all these things. And so that opened it up to being like a real career that people could stay. And so now you have people who having their second career, third career, and they come and they fly for us. So
yeah.
not just my airline, but other ones. And so yeah, there's definitely been people who've come in at different age groups and different journeys, parts of journey in their life. And coming in and working for the airlines. Yeah, it's possible. It's not just a young person's thing anymore. It is a if you are open to this crazy lifestyle and you want to give good service and you want to, be representatives of this airline, then we will hire you.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think a lot of people might want to know that because a lot of people do want to travel. Now, have you experienced challenging travel and being a woman of brown skin, going to different part of the country? Has that ever impact you?
Um, I think that in general, that's kind of, I mean, it's loaded. But I think that in general, when you're with your crew, especially, there's never been a time where I felt like unsafe or like I wasn't taken care of. We have this kind of mentality where you take care of your crew, you make
Mhm.
sure that, you're all good. And so I haven't really had too many instances in that way. I will say that like sometimes there are some layovers where you're wondering, well, like when you're flying abroad, and you're thinking, am I going to be safe? And I remember the first time that I flew to Israel,
Mhm.
all you see on the news is about, the Gaza Strip and the, conflict there. And then I went to Tel Aviv and it was like the Middle Eastern Miami. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine. Um, but I think that as a Black woman, I always am aware of my Blackness. I'm always aware of myself in spaces. And so I think that it's not necessarily the others. It's just that like when I go places, I'm always aware that I need to like look out. Like, is this a place where Black people are thriving? Do I need to stay in my hotel room? like, you know, but
Okay.
most times I've found that I have had a good experience and I've been very safe. And for every bad apple, there's 20 that show me that humanity is just like far greater and bigger and more kind than anyone could ever imagine. And so I think that I always go into the world with the context that I'm a Black woman and I make sure to look out for myself and the people like me. And I always try to find that community, whether it be through my coworkers or people that I meet out. There's a camaraderie around Black folks abroad. But in this country, I think that like I don't necessarily have any like fear or thoughts. I think sometimes within the work group it can be tough because we're a really diverse work group, and so some people are not as uh
Open-minded or flexible?
yeah, we all have different political views, backgrounds, whatever, and we're all working together. So I think the hardest part is really just working with your crews.
So the crew you have, is that the crew you stay with? How long are you in that crew before you shift to another crew? Because y'all can't stay together forever. I don't think that.
No, typically every trip. So that could be anywhere between 1 to 4 days. It's a different crew. So I'll
Oh,
have that crew maybe for the 4 days. And then after that, we disperse and then we may or may not work together ever again.
oh, that's nice. So you're constantly meeting people. I like
Mhm.
that you constantly can develop. Now, have you met any friends there that even though you travel once, that you have actually maintained a friendship outside of just traveling?
Yeah, absolutely. I have some people that I met when I was at flight attendant training that I still talk to this day. And I have people that I just had random layovers with that we are good friends and we all still make time for each other. So it's good. I think that like there's one part of the flight attendant profession that is great because you're meeting a lot of people and you're building friends, but then also there's a hard part of it too, because you are all over the place and nobody can kind of pin you down. And so trying to maintain your relationships is hard because you have to really put a lot of effort into seeing these people, prioritizing them. Everyone has all these crazy schedules. So sometimes the flight attendant life can be a little lonely. You can meet a lot of people, but keeping up with all the people can be a little challenging. So I want to be real there is that yes, you are meeting lots of people, but also it can be a lonely career because you have the most sporadic schedule. It's hard for your friends to pin you down. And if they're also flight crew, then they're also equally as hard to pin down. And so it makes relationships like you have to work really hard to maintain them.
Well, you got Zoom, you got FaceTime. So nowadays, you digital world can help you.
Yeah,
So
it's
the next
better.
next thing I want to ask you, as we move forward, and then we're going to move into your next career. As you said the first year people are, I guess, realize they're not made for this thing. Or do they voluntarily leave, or you're on probation for a year and the company realize it's not a fit? And do they offer you something else, or do you
Oh,
navigate into another space?
no, no, no. It's like you are on probation for like 6 months or something like that. But no, it's just that people self-select out. Like if they decide like I cannot be on the road like this, I cannot have these weird hours, I cannot miss Christmas again, then they'll just quit. It's not that people will like tell them that they
Okay.
need to go. Like no one's gonna tell you you need to go. You decide. The only way is if you have infractions. So
Mhm.
like if you're late or you're getting in trouble or doing stuff and the passengers or whatever, like, and that's very rare.
Mhm.
So typically people self-select. And I will say that there's not really a pipeline into any other roles within the airline from the flight attendant job, which is why me going and working at corporate is such a huge deal. Because there's not a pipeline. And it's just something that I've talked to my company about, something that I hope to help them navigate a little bit better in the future.
I'm
But
surprised.
there's not really a pipeline to corporate. There's a pipeline to if you want to maybe work at the office. There's like a few office roles like at the airport.
Hmm.
And so there's some flight attendant support roles that they have there. And a few other opportunities to do special projects, but it's not sustainable because you have to keep applying and hoping you get these special assignments. And so there's really not like there's a ceiling. There's a
Wow.
ceiling.
I'm
And
surprised. I
so
figured that you are the most important person because you're the heartbeat. You're with the actual customer. You are
mhm.
a valuable asset. And if you have a degree, then with that degree, whatever degree it is, going back into the corporate space, you're an asset.
Yeah, and that's what when I was recruiting with them, which is why when I told you I met my company at that MBA recruiting conference, that's exactly what they said. They started speaking out loud before I could even really say what it is that I wanted to do. They were like, "Wow, you know our operation better than us. You know our customer. You know this." And so then they started putting all the pieces together, and they're like, "I think you would be a good fit for here," you know?
Mhm.
And there are a handful of flight attendants who have made it to corporate, not saying that it's never happened, but
Mhm.
it's not a pipeline. It's not like a natural progression. It's like, oh, I don't like flying. Let me go see what's happening at corporate, or let me try to get a job at like in a desk. No, that's not a thing. You just leave the profession altogether. It's not like, there are some folks who maybe work with the union and they end up in union leadership, or they end up being a flight attendant trainer.
Mhm.
Um, But if you're someone like me who I don't have no interest in being a teacher, you know, like that's really the cap. It's like you can either be a flight attendant manager, which
Mhm.
you would need like a lot more experience. So a person who's only 1 year in is not going to go, let me go be a flight attendant manager. Like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just there's not a ton of options, to be honest. Like you're gonna do that job or you go and do some other job. And so me being able to pivot and go into work and being in the leadership program and being an analyst is a pretty big deal. It's not something that happens every day.
Well, your entire life, to me, it's a pretty big deal. It's a good lesson for people to see that even in the hardest time, go through your moment, you have a good sense of self-awareness. You understand yourself. Like you said, you cried during COVID when things were changing in your life. But you took that moment, which you should. You need to
Mm-hmm.
take that moment to grief, that you were grieving.
Yeah, big time.
You were grieving, but then after you grieve, you got yourself together, and that's a good understanding of who you are and the time you needed. So when you finally, after being a travel agency, after being a airline stewardess, your business, where is your travel business today? Is it on the back burner for future
Mhm.
reference, or is it closed down for good?
Yeah, so I actually closed my group travel company in the fall of 2021. That group that I told you about that I was taking to Ghana in 2020, I rescheduled it and I took it, and that was like my last hurrah. I did it for 6 years or 5.5. And so I closed that down. I honestly I started to do kind of an assessment on what was next in my life. And honestly, I don't want to be on the road anymore. I
Mhm,
want to be able to get a dog and to like have like a little bit more of a stable life, and that kind of career does not allow for that.
mhm,
It was big, it was great. It got me into business school. It made me some of the best friends in my life. It helped me find my love and passion for building brands and marketing and customer experience and all these things. But I realized that it wasn't going to fit with my life moving forward, even though as painful as it was to close it. But I actually started a new business. So when I started to think about what I could do with the experience that I have,
mhm.
that doesn't require me to be anywhere but at home, I realized that I needed to build products. And so that's where it kind of connects to what I pivoted into during the pandemic, which is consumer goods
Mhm,
and brand management. And so I built a game company for travelers called Wanderlust Table.
mhm.
And it was really exciting, and it ended up having selling out the first batch. And I thought, okay, maybe people like games for travelers. And so then me and my partners decided to make a whole company called Wanderlust Game Company. And so right now we're building out board and table games for the travel obsessed, essentially. So ways that they can engage with travel themes when they're at home with their friends, and to help them grow and get inspired, essentially.
Wow. So you can at the end, I'm going to have you put that out there. If it's available for people to purchase now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you can definitely put that at the end as we get towards the end, you can definitely give your shout out to your company that you're doing. Wonderful. So that's something I did not know.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
oh wow.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've realized this is just who I am. I make things. I like creating and bringing new things to life. And so even though it's not in the group travel space, there are other ways to use that muscle that I'm realizing. And I think that because of the big pivots that I've made in the last 3 years, I'm just open now to the fact that like nothing has to be as it is.
Yes, no, it doesn't. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, I'm a certified life coach too. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, people get stuck on the vision they have. If their vision says it's red, the opportunity might come in blue.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be open that that opportunity will not look like your vision. It's the opportunity still. And sometimes that opportunity might not be the path that you originally thought you're going to be on. But once you're open to everything, opportunity will come to you and will be available to you. It just is a mindset, being open and not so narrow, not doing that tunnel vision. And you have definitely exhibit that, having an open mind and realizing that. opportunity comes in different shape, form, and at different times in our life. And we need to take a stab at it because it might be exactly what we're looking for, but just didn't come in the way we expected. And
Absolutely.
with that being said, so you navigated now. So explain to me, what are you doing? So your business is closed, but you found another way to find another business, which is no, I love that.
Yes.
I love constantly thinking. You're constantly, and that's a person who will always be successful because successful looks different. In my eyes, you're very successful. Now, I
Thank
don't
you.
know what that looked like for you. I don't know if
Yeah.
you title. I mean, and success have different level, because you're success now doesn't mean that, you don't want to go further, but you're successful at this
No,
current
I
point.
celebrate. Yeah, I think that like for me, I'm one of those people where I celebrate the milestones. I realize how far I've come, how much I've had to, put into this part of my journey and to get here. And I absolutely feel successful.
Good,
But I
good.
have goals for more success and I have
And
more things I want to do. But I celebrate along the way. It's one of my I think my signatures is that I'm one of the people where I just make sure to take the moment to really just celebrate every milestone and every moment and every little thing.
sure.
So yeah,
And
but I still aspire higher, of course.
thank you. It's
But
about this embracing and giving yourself that kudos because we sometimes neglect to share ourselves and recognize the hard work we have done because we're so busy trying to get to the top of the mountain. We don't realize each plateau is the level of success.
mhm.
And they're different because each level is a different complete arena, a different life. Things are going on differently. So you have to think about the work to get to this level and the
Mhm.
next level. There's work at each level, and you have to engage more and require more of you. But I just want to say you're successful where you are right now. And your own entire journey have been a successful journey, even with its challenges, because from listening to you, you have learned so much about yourself, and you have done what other people have done at an older age too. You have realized that you have all the skill sets you needed. It's just a matter of wording. So one of the most important thing I'm going to ask, because a lot of people in regular industry have that problem where they don't know, how's your resume? How did you put together a resume that incorporate, or
Mhm.
you didn't have to because you were lucky when you came for that interview? How do you put?
Yeah, no, no, I still had to fight for that role. I did. Um, so essentially my resume, I had the same old dusty resume that I had when I was a hotel front desk person and I barely updated it with my flight attendant job on there. I had to put that on there.
Mhm,
So I had this old resume and honestly through the MBA process, you have to put it in there like kind of like your school, whatever school you go to,
mhm,
they'll like have like a format that they approve of. And
mhm.
so you work with your advisors, with your counselors to put this together because I had all this non-traditional experience. I'm like, how do I represent this on here? Should I put my entrepreneurial pursuits on here? And they were like, yes. I even have my Instagram on there because it shows like my digital presence. Like it's interesting because I wanted to kind of move away from all those things. I just wanted to start over. But really what made me interesting is all those things that I've done and being able to like represent them in a way. And you have to tailor your resume. Every job you do, everything, there's ways that you can kind of tailor it to make sure that it's speaking the language that they need. But there's a general kind of standard that my business school or any kind of like MBAs will use.
Mhm,
Just like a one pager, everything on one page, just really understanding, school experience,
mhm.
skills, any kind of certifications or anything that you might have, and being able to demonstrate that all on one page. And so, yeah, I work with my mentors. I work with people at my school, with my other MBAs to make sure that I was really capturing all the skills, the transferable skills that I had, and being able to like display those in a way that corporations would respond to, which they did. So it worked out.
Good. So you did compare, because that's a lot of things people need to hear. A lot of people out there entrepreneur, and they're very successful in their entrepreneur life. But they, once again, like you said, trying to take that life and put it in a resume so it helps you navigate and move forward is a difficult task. And so I'm glad you expressed that. Did you ever went out to a resume agency or anything like that, or you just basically use the people within your space?
No, I just use my resources.
Okay. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah, but I think that it was unique, and I think I like to speak on that, is that being in a master's program, and especially a professional development kind of master's program, like a master's in business, you
Mhm.
have the kind of network that most people don't have, right? I
Okay.
can tap in and have some of the industry professionals and people and,
Mhm.
everyone. So if I was not a flight attendant, I would have maybe reached out to some friends that were in the professional world to look over my resume.
Mhm.
And then if I was really doing a master pivot without a master's,
Mhm.
or without that kind of institutional backing, I would have probably hired someone.
Okay. So hear that, everyone? Hear that? Okay. So one of the things I want to say, so in your new position, marketing, because I hear you talk about that a lot,
Mhm.
marketing. So give us a quick snap of what you actually do, a window, because I don't want you to, I don't know what you can share and not share with your
Yeah.
job. So I'm trying to be delicate. So you share, but I want people to understand how you navigate and what you're actually doing now without.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So right now, I work as a marketing analyst under the commercial strategy unit of my airline. And my role is a little different than the rest of my team members, because essentially, with as an MBA and an MBA leadership program, they want to make sure that you're in strategy roles, not
Mhm.
just marketing. It's like marketing and strategy.
Mhm.
And so you're typically doing a lot of like high level initiatives or things that come down from the company. So specifically, I work on a team that works on our own channel strategy, which is basically own channel marketing is basically the things that you can control. So our website, our app, our email, our social, things like that. We don't do social media as much, but we do help them with like messaging strategy. So
Mhm.
my team is basically the communication strategy team. And so we help them come up with like messages for campaigns
Mhm.
and how to tell things to our customer directly. And then also we help build out different platforms to make sure that that can happen. And we promote it through all of our own channels, because we have our own channel, which is like I said, our app, our website, those kind of things. And then we have a separate team that does paid media, paid marketing. And then we have a separate team that does earned media, which is like, PR and all that kind of stuff, where you're getting press releases and, you're getting stuff. So my team handles all the stuff that we do with our own things, like in-house. And then um, if I pull the layers back a little bit more, my specific role is actually just doing bigger initiatives. So right now I'm working on a website redevelopment project for our loyalty program, which is really huge for us, because our loyalty program is actually what we leveraged during the pandemic to get a loan for our company. So it's loyalty programs are really, really key to the success of most businesses and the longevity of them. And so I am helping build out this website for our company and working with all of our stakeholders and different people. And so I'm doing a lot of like cross-functional kind of management. I'm doing a marketing role, but also like a project manager role, and making sure, and also I would say even like a change management and
Mhm.
innovation role, because we're bringing something brand new to the company, and it's something that in the future will kind of roll out to the rest of the website.
Mhm.
And honestly, if you know anything about marketing and about branding, your website is your home. It is where your customers come. It needs to be tight.
Mhm.
So even though it may seem like a bit of a tech project, because I'm working on a website redevelopment, it is still very much marketing. And that's why it's marketing and it's strategy, because you're thinking, how does this help my business? How does it set my business up for the long term? And how do I make sure to use these resources to do the best that I can, so that my customers understand my project, my product, the journey, and just figuring out how all those pieces kind of come together. And so, yeah, so my role is pretty much building out communication strategies for different corporate initiatives, building out different websites and different communications in our own channel space, and just helping them move towards the future in terms of how they build out their communications, their websites, etc.
Wow. But one question I want to ask you, and this is a pivot to when you had your business and your website. Give me a little scenario now. What were you, give me an idea of what you did on your website so it stand out before you even got to this corporate world.
Yeah. Okay, so I will be fair. I do not think that my website was standing out. I think that it was, well, my first one at least. My
Mhm,
first one was just like a blog that I worked on with a friend and we tried to make it happen. But then my last company, because I've had a few, my
mhm,
last company, which I own on my own, I actually did take that into consideration and I made sure that it was a very like modern, clean website.
mhm,
um I made sure that I was able to really show the customer experience through like visuals, making sure that I had video, I had photos, showing people on the vacation so they know what to expect, breaking down all the details in a very beautifully well displayed way. I hired a website developer
uh,
to actually build out the last site, the company that I closed most recently,
mhm,
to make sure that all the information was organized in a way that makes sense, made sure that it was optimized for mobile devices because a lot of people use websites on their mobile. And so, just making sure like my last website compared to my first website light years away. But really like showing visually what they can expect, making sure that it's shown in a very modern, clean, well into like a very user-friendly way.
mhm.
And then working with a professional to build it and not me just building it on Squarespace or on WordPress.
So it's pretty much you show growth. So you're saying your first one wasn't the greatest, but that's okay. But that's growth. Every time
Hmm.
you start something, it depends on your finance and your investment. You
Yep.
might have to do it yourself at first, but eventually you realize that the importance that website meant, and you stepped it up by hiring someone. But
Yep.
after just explaining to me what you're currently doing with the website and how people interact, do you see the correlation when you
Oh, girl, yes.
I just
I
wanted people to see it too. That's why I said, let me let you explain what you currently do right now. Then I wanted you to pull up a picture next to it of what you used to do and how you grew and how that just because I wanted people to see.
Yeah, no, now it's just the scale is different,
Yes, but
I'm
still the
working with
same thing.
millions of dollars instead of no dollars.
Mhm,
And I have essentially I also manage our agency relationships as well. And so we've hired an agency to help us build out this website because we don't have the capabilities in-house
mhm.
to do it. Not that we can't do it, it's just the timing. We're all so already so busy. So I manage our agency relationship as well. And so, yeah, it's just I'm doing it at a different scale.
But
And I
it's the
think
same
that,
concept though, and you understand the
yep.
importance of when you had your business because sometimes we need to take our job as an entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
as an actual business,
Yep.
your business to be successful sometime because you're more accountability, ownership of what
Hmm.
you're doing, and that help you to level up once you take that ownership and realize it's mine and treat it, obviously not yours, but this is my responsibility, and you want the most, you want the best, as if you add your entrepreneur business. The objective is to succeed and get the most, and because obviously you will benefit from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that what I found through my journey, which I wasn't completely confident about, was
Mhm,
just all the transferable skills that I had. And I think that, you know, I think I got discouraged because without the masters, it's
mhm,
like they were blind. They
mhm,
didn't see those skills. But then all I did was register for an MBA, and then all of a sudden everyone could
mhm.
see the light. And so
Yeah,
sometimes, unfortunately, there are some spaces where the institutional backing helps
yeah.
and it will help you pivot into the next kind of part of your journey. I think that there are other ways, there are training programs, there are short courses. You don't have to do a whole MBA. But I will say that there is something about being able to demonstrate your interest as well as that having someone to back you up, because as an entrepreneur you can say, oh, I was successful, I did this, I did that, but how do they check that? They can't, they don't really know, like it's like, they can look at your website, they can look at your social media.
but that is not the same. Do you understand the full value of what you're doing and how it would relate on a bigger scale? And that's where
Exactly.
the MBA program comes in, because
Hmm.
they're going to teach you how to operate on a bigger scale, on an international scale. And so therefore, yes, they will see now she have ran a website, she have ran a business, but now she also have the skill on the real skill behind it to apply in our company.
Hmm.
And so, yes, I can see where a company, and you're right, company do that. You know, it is what it is.
I
Some
know. I think we live
skills,
in this. We live in this. It's the existence. I think that we can be utopian if we like, but you're gonna be utopian and broke.
yeah.
But like, I think it's like it's important to know like what's the smallest step you can make
Hmm.
to get you to where you need to go. And for me, it wasn't a small step, it was a big step, because I had been in customer service my whole experience, and I had been an entrepreneur, but it's been a small business, and so it just was not respected enough in the corporate world for me to be able to pivot during that really tough time in my life. So I had to take a big action and enroll in the MBA.
Yeah,
Like
and
that
I
was.
think, I tell people all the time, never feel uncomfortable in going to school, because I feel one thing about education, it's yours for life.
No one
Once
can take on
you
me.
get it, no one can take that away with you. It goes with you everywhere, whatever country, whatever job, it's yours for life. And I think that the importance, depends on the industry that you're in. Education might not be the first thing they look at. It's something you can get after you get in some position. But the bottom
Mhm.
line is, whatever time you get it, once you have it, it's yours for life. So it's never a waste of time.
And
Never
I
a
think
waste of
also,
time. It's very
yeah,
valuable. And you can take any degree and make it work for you. So kudos to that. And I'm so happy that you had a chance. So you have been now in this corporate new space for how long?
a little bit under a year. So I think it's like 10, 11 months. So it's still pretty fresh, but I made it through my first
Congratulations.
performance period. I got my first raise. I feel like, it's upward here.
It not feel it is upward, ma'am. Your skill set, your personality, your drive, you are definitely going upward, because one thing about you, don't give up, and
Thank
you're
you.
very self-aware. You know when you need to take a break, you understand yourself, and you understand what help you strive. So as long as you continue to maintain that self-aware, constantly checking in on yourself and who you are, and if what you're doing align, because I realize with you, what you're doing have to align with you,
Mm-hmm.
your value system, your morals, your goal, and you are in spaces that align with your vision. And then that I think that's the best thing for success, being aligned with something that also niche with your vision and your goal, and what you see is valuable to you. And so even though you're pivot back and forth, you pretty much have stayed in the same space.
Yeah,
You just
ultimately I
moved it.
have.
Yeah, you're still in the same space. It's just, and when I say the same space, not mean stagnant, but you're still in the same world.
Mm-hmm.
Just you moved over, but it's still the same thing. It just have gotten bigger. You used to be here in this space. Now you have widened out more.
Mm-hmm.
And as your space get bigger, you have expand because you have more room for growth. And that's what you have done. You have put yourself in the position to continue to grow, because it is endless, the growth that you can have in this space that you're in. And it pretty much is everything that you have enjoyed and like. And so where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, honestly, I see this next part of my journey as kind of like my building journey, where I'm building new skill sets. So right now I'm on this project, and then I will rotate into a different role at the end of the year. And so I'm hoping to get in 5 years at least like two or three more roles under my belt,
Yes.
so that I feel like I have what I call my insurance.
Mhm.
So, essentially, at that point, I'm hoping either they're going to be promoting me to, some higher level in the aviation space, or I could equally, use those skill sets anywhere and do anything. I don't have to stay in travel if I don't want to. If it keeps working out for me, great. But now with the MBA, it's not like it was, in 2020 when I
Mhm.
had a travel business and, only customer service experience. I'm building skill sets that any company would need. I
Mhm.
can go and work in corporate marketing anywhere. I could go and work in commercial strategy anywhere. I can work on web development projects. I can do literally so many things now. I could do adjacent stuff in the travel space. So maybe I could work for not an airline, but an aircraft manufacturer,
Mhm.
or I could go work for the government. I could do a lot of things in the travel, transport, aerospace, aviation business. So I have set myself up so that essentially I'm building out skills that will help me stay in my industry, but also give me the flexibility if I ever need to pivot or change again, that I can. Because I think that 2020 period, it just really shook me, me crying on that jump seat, and thinking, what skills do I have? What can I do? And how do I move forward after this? And so I think that in 5 years, I hope that I'm just building out a range of skill sets so that I'm just dangerous and like I
Mhm.
can move and pivot and do whatever I want.
You will. For me, I'm using the words you will, you are, you're going to. Because listening to you, you had your wake up call, whatever it is. For everyone, sometime they need that situation that occur that open their eyes to what they really want to do. And you had that moment. And now, as I listen to you speak in all the different areas, you already mapped it out. You already looked at, you are prepared. Okay, you already looked at and thought about all the different things that you can possibly do. And with the five, six things that you did just mention, that tells me that you're constantly fine tuning your skill to pivot it any one of those areas. So you already know that within the next 5 years, I will be at another level in one of these area, wherever that might take me. And I think that that's a wonderful thing. Congratulations again on your position that you're in. And I see you and I hope to be able to interview you in 5 years again and to see where you're at. You're a very successful, intelligent Black woman. You're doing wonderful things. And I think young people listening to you pivot is going to be important because so many young girls and guys out there, because even though you're a woman, I think guys can take information from this because what the role you're in is not gender. It's not a gender role. It's a role that anyone can be in, a male or female. And I think you sharing your experience to show that sometime based on where you want to be, you have to take that additional step in your education. And it's not
Mhm.
a bad thing. It's not a burden. It's not a negative if you decide to go back to school. It's never going to hurt you going back to school and
Yeah,
show that that was the for you that was the piece you needed to navigate in that space and to be seen clearly because you were able to put both things together, your personal experience, your experience out there, and the schooling made you a complete package. And
100%.
like I said, these things you can't, once you have it, no one can take it away from you.
Yeah.
So it's not a waste. And I'm so happy. Please, we're getting ready to wrap it up, people.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, this was a wonderful one. And it was worth the wait, miss.
I am so sorry.
No,
That
no,
was so
no,
hard to
no,
get
no,
to me.
no, no. Never apologize for being you and handling your business.
Thank
Keep
you.
that in mind. If someone feels important, they will wait for you.
Mhm.
Your interview was important to me, so I waited.
Well,
So
this
there's no
was
need
great.
to apologize, okay?
Yeah.
You were doing you, and that's what comes first,
Thank you.
okay? I'm s- I'm I'm behind, you know what I mean? I'm behind the scene. But definitely I want to give you the opportunity to put out your second company, your second venture.
Mhm.
People can get to it and give a little bit more idea, an example of what you already created so people can visually understand what you're offering.
Yes. So I am the creator and co-founder of Wanderlust Game Company. It is a board and table game company for the travel obsessed. And so currently we have one product on market called Wanderlust Table. You can find us on Instagram. You can type it into your browser. It's called Wanderlust Table. And it is a conversation deck for travelers, essentially. And it's really fun and it helps people reflect on the journeys that they've taken and just thinking about how to really process all of their travel and inspire them to go new places. It's a great way for people who love travel or who have any kind of travel bug just to find a reason to connect and just talk about stories and life. It's very story forward and narrative forward.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's currently on the market right now. You can find us on our website. But also too, we're constantly building new things. And I have found out through this journey that I'm actually a game developer. And so I have built out like 10 new concepts in strategy and party games, etc. So you'll be seeing some new things coming this year and beyond. It's only just the beginning for this company. But yeah, you can find us at Wanderlust Table on Instagram and on Facebook and our website. And we continue to grow and we'll see what happens next. But definitely follow us and engage with us. And if you're a big traveler, it'll be perfect for you. So
Okay, hear that one. Hear that, everyone. Please follow her, Wonderless Table.
yes, Wando's Table. And then also to my personal Instagram, you can find whatever ventures I'm up to at Brittany Global. That's Brittany, the proper way. But yeah, you can find me at Brittany Global as well. So no matter what the ventures are or whatever happens, you can always find me there.
Hear that, Brittany Global. So people, please like and follow and share. This young lady is a prime example of what we can do when crisis hit. 2020 was a year that really hit a lot of people hard in so many different ways, and also was a year that woke up a lot of people at the same time. A lot of people left their job to create new space for themselves, and so that tells you it impact people in different ways. But either way, I think it was a time for the world to take a break. It was a time to shut down and really take a break. And once again, I'm going to just sorry for anyone who've lost anyone that year. I pray for you and your family, and I hope that you're doing well today. But for the other people who had an eye opener and an opportunity to understand the value of their life and what they have to offer to the world, it definitely was an opportunity for those people as well. So everyone, as you can see, my company is Survivor Empower Life Coach Financial. I'm a certified life coach. I'm an accountant during the day, and I'm also an advocate for domestic violence and sexual assault. I coach people to move forward in life, whether it be in a toxic relationship or a goal to move from point A to point B or D, or whatever it is that you want to transition in life. I help you move forward with that. And I'm one who very feel that we all know what we want to do. Sometimes we just don't know how to, I shall put it, initiate it. We just don't know how to bring it to the forefront, but we all deep down inside have our passion, and we just need someone sometimes just to sit next to us and be that person to help us bring it out in the open and show us how to navigate and how to express it and what does it actually mean. And so with everyone, please share and like Survivor Empower Life Coach, acronym SELF. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, my website, same thing, Survivor Empower Life Coach Financial. And for this self-talk, the reason I call it self-talk, because I allow those people to talk about themselves. And I feel in people doing that in today, everyone have so much lesson that we can learn from. We don't listen to each other enough. And no matter what the age the person is, we can learn from everyone, someone older, someone younger. No one knows everything. And you just got to be open to hearing other people's story, because there's a lesson in every story, in every journey. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you later. Bye.